Well, certainly catastrophic gaming news broke because here I am on the road once more. It seems like whenever I'm traveling, we just have to have these massive news blowouts. I spend all week in advance of my travels preparing videos for all of you to release so I can focus on the thing I'm actually here to do. And then what happens? Oh, we have such catastrophic news break that I gotta sit down and talk about it. Today, we're gathering to discuss Concord. And this is a game that I haven't talked about on the channel since the beta had dropped, where I did my review/impression of said beta. None of the heroes really captured me. None of their abilities really sparked any excitement in me. And worse yet, I thought the movement in the game was really bad, like cinder blocks tied to your feet, kind of bad. So for me, it was an easy pass at launch. And actually, I had that moment that really, I think, puts the game's entire narrative into a single sentence, which is, I forgot the game was coming out. I got a text on my phone from my PlayStation app saying, hey, Concord is out right now. Go ahead and join in the fun. I was like, this is coming out today? And I do this for a living. I'm usually pretty on top of major releases, but it was that off my radar. And I think that if there's one thing that hurts creatives more than anything, it's one thing to hate something, it's one thing to love something, but to make something that people are so disinterested in, that Concord isn't, say, like Redfall, where I think that was just not a good game. Like, Concord is a working game. It was relatively polished. This is a game that was functioning fine. It just wasn't really lighting anyone's fire. So much so that analysts have said that Concord has sold only 25,000 units. And when you find out that the budget for this game exceeded well over $100 million, I mean, that right there just paints a picture of how bad of an investment this was for PlayStation. Not only that, but that's looking at the game. They bought the studio, and that was the original vote of confidence for Concord. Like, okay, PlayStation, who has a pretty good eye for first-party talent, went out of their way to go buy Firewalk Studios before they even released this game because they felt pretty good about it. Now it's extremely clear the purchase was just made so that PlayStation could get in on the live service genre, which they've been missing out on for a while because they're only releasing big single-player games, and those are more difficult to recoup assets on. So now they have these live service games that can kind of generate some revenue. They don't have to do any splits. Like, for example, they get some of that Fortnite revenue, but it's only a certain percentage. They want to have their own Fortnite. Every platform holder wants to have their own Fortnite where you're just printing that money and it's only going straight to you. So PlayStation wanted to get in on the fun, and they messed up so bad that the conversation immediately before the beta had even come out was, is this going to go free to play? Because they were charging $40 for this. And when the beta dropped and the player count wasn't high, again, is it going to go free to play? Now, I thought that was going to be the next step, like put it on PlayStation Plus at least, but PlayStation and Firewalk have gone to a whole other extreme that I don't think we've ever seen before. This is, I have to say, one of the most catastrophic failures in gaming ever. And this needs to be studied, not only for the massive fleece that was done on PlayStation, but just also how badly live service can go. It's a real high risk, high reward kind of space for gaming, and more developers need to be careful entering it. If you couldn't tell by this year, the biggest flops have all been live service. Look at Suicide Squad and what's happening to Rocksteady, a once prolific single-player studio. So what's happening here? On the PlayStation blog, they write, an important update on Concord. Concord fans, we've been listening closely to your feedback since the launch of Concord on PlayStation 5 and PC, and want to thank everyone who has joined the journey aboard the North Star. Your support and the passionate community that has grown around the game has meant the world to us. However, while many qualities of the experience resonated with players, we also recognize that other aspects of the game and our initial launch didn't land the way we intended. Therefore, at this time, we have decided to take the game offline beginning September 6, 2024, and explore options, including those that'll better reach our players. While we determine the best path ahead, Concord sales will cease immediately, and we will begin to offer a full refund for all gamers who have purchased the game for PS5 or PC. If you purchase the game for PlayStation 5 from the PlayStation Store or PlayStation Direct, a refund will be issued back to your original payment method. And then for customers who purchase from other digital storefronts will also be refunded. And they talk about the Steam Store, saying that they'll refund players who bought the game over the coming days. Steam will send a confirmation for the refund once it's been processed. Epic Games Store will refund players who bought the game over the coming days, and they will contact each customer directly. And other retailer refunds for customers who have purchased a physical copy at a retailer location outside of PlayStation directly, please refer to the refund process of the retailer you purchase it from to obtain your refund. And once refunded, you will no longer have access to the game. We'll keep you updated, and thanks again to all the free gunners who have joined us in the Concord Galaxy. Wow. I mean, I didn't see this coming. I didn't think they would just dip on the game like that. I really didn't see it coming. It seems like, based on the verbiage used here, that they're going to be at least checking out their options, but they're going completely back to the drawing board. That's because when you look at the budget versus the potential sales, 25,000 sales, if we're even doubling that, by the way, let's triple it. Let's say it sold 75,000 copies and the budget was like $100 million. They are still not even sniffing anywhere close to breaking even. Again, Concord is one of gaming's biggest failures ever. And to see it be walked back this quickly shows that PlayStation looked at this and went, there's no chance this has a comeback unless it seriously gets reworked. And Firewalk is revising their options. Do they get the chance to go make their own thing again? Is it going to be Concord? Is there enough interest in Concord to give it a second shot in the arm and try it with new character designs? I don't know. Right now, the frustration I feel as a fan of PlayStation is that I look at canceled live service games like what happened with The Last of Us Online, right? Factions was supposed to be this big, full game that probably would have been PlayStation's best step into live service. They canceled that. They released Concord. You see what's happening over at Bungie. PlayStation just doesn't get this side of the business at all. It's never been more apparent because they have missed every single time and made really bad decisions and didn't let their marquee studio and Naughty Dog kind of lead the charge on what a PlayStation quality live service game could be. And I just got to say, with them kind of offering refunds, taking the game offline, this is not even a situation like what's going on with Multiverses, where they kind of took it offline because it was, quote, a beta. I think this game is gone, and I believe, based on what we saw with Bungie, where we were kind of informed, oh, they're going to take like 100 developers and spin them into this new studio. Again, when you look at Concord, the game is just super unappealing, from like hero designs being uninspired and clearly ripped from something like Guardians of the Galaxy, but the game works, and they did have talent from like Bungie on this team that made a game that at least is playable. It just, again, I think the character design really sunk this game. And so it's I could see a world where they're like, hey, you all still have a job, let's try this again, and let's bring on like a whole new art team to kind of supply the visuals for what was, again, a competent first-person shooter. Was it my favorite? No. Was it going to replace the ones I was currently playing at the time? Like, I've been playing a decent amount of Overwatch 2 lately? No. But it played well enough where I could have seen it gathering a base. But I mean, art design and characters, you got to be able to attach yourself to these things when you're playing a hero shooter, because that kind of defines whose stories you're going to track, especially in a game like Concord where they were promising weekly stories. Like, it really mattered to get the characters right. But when you have character names like Starchild in the game, like, it's just so wholly uninspired that they could have done so much better. Because it's one thing to just, you know, take inspiration and say like, hey, we like Guardians and let's build upon that, versus something like this where it's just completely stolen, in my opinion. And then you throw on top of this the 8-year development cycle. So I think PlayStation, in my opinion, is going to take the talent that's there that they can hang on to, put them somewhere else, and let the rest go. Because this was an acquisition during the Jim Ryan era of PlayStation, and I know a lot of people now are a bit concerned about what's going on with Fair Games, and I think that's also fair. They did buy Haven Studios, so is it possible that just this whole Jim Ryan push into live service is not going to pan out well? We'll see in due time. But I think just Concord and Firewalk are done. I just think straight up they're done, and that's sad to see, but it's an important message. I think it's almost something that had to happen in gaming, to put it bluntly, because a lot of these companies continue to try to, I think of like the toys that had the circle holes and people are just trying to slam a square block into it. It's like, dude, that's not going to work. Stop trying to force live service. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Putting the cart before the horse, trying to make a live product before you even have anything compelling. Stop trying to sell people on content before we even have content. That's the biggest problem with live service. I look at something like Space Marines 2, which is kind of shaping up where I could see people buying into the co-op mode, and then after said co-op mode has dropped, then you can start to supply the content of the player base is there and start hanging with it. I think of World War Z from the same team in Saber Interactive. They dropped this Horde mode game, and they're like, okay, let's see how it does, and then it got a ton of support afterwards because people really enjoyed the gameplay. Make sure you make something fun first, then you could sell to your heart's content, because at that point, you got us hook, line, and sinker every single time. So Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is the news, and unbelievable. 8 years of development time, millions upon millions of dollars thrown into a project that got shut down in 2 weeks. That's unheard of. That's a unprecedented level of failure. And so we just had to talk about it. So ladies and gentlemen, those are my thoughts on Concord. I'm interested to see what PlayStation does next in the live service genre, what they do next when it comes to Firewalk. I'm sure we'll hear more as the week goes on, but I could see them at least just taking some of the talent there and putting them on something else. But who knows? This might be some of the last days for Firewalk. Time will tell, but I'm looking forward to getting your thoughts. Once again, thank you for bearing with this audio setup. I know this mic ain't too hot, but I appreciate you dealing with it for this video. With that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you next time around. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.